Does. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along. We have another round of your LMGT challenge, or LMGT3 challenge actually. I will be more specific, and we're here today to take on the first Asian circuit on the calendar, Interlagos. It's myself, Joseph Black, alongside, as always, Max Rank.
Hello everybody, pleasure to be here once again. Pleasure to be back in the commentary box with good old Joseph. But yeah, hello, we are back for another round of what shall be amazing action. Of course, the main cause of concern is, can anyone stop Fonye? But we are into qualifying now here in Bahrain at the Bahrain International Circuit, the Sakhir International Circuit. Sorry, and we are into qualifying. The drivers now just starting their first runs of the session. Of course, this 5-minute hyperpole where everybody gets to track to themselves on their own screens, but they are all circulating at the exact same time. So we'll see if Farkonyi can make it another pole position. Of course, has got 4 so far this season out of 6. Is looking to potentially make it 5, but with that success ballast here, Joseph, make things a bit more difficult, as he's now up to 50 kilos more. And around a circuit like Bahrain, you do need to have that extra little bit of power. Maybe being a little bit lighter in the car, especially down those straights, will help you dearly. And I think tyre wear will play a massive part as well.
Yes, and don't forget, track temperature will be rife here today. It will be ever so important, and well, it is one of those things we will only wait and see as we get into the race session, and well, the qualifying session will give us a decent idea. This is Eero Visuri in the 46 team WRT BMW. Of course, the latest big update to Le Mans Ultimate has allowed different driver liveries. You can see the pretty simple one there for Eero Visuri, the red, white and blue LM on the car. If we have a look at some of the other drivers who are more towards the end of the circuit, Henrik de Vries, for example, he's gone for that typical Heart of Racing livery, and the number 27, in fact, heading out of that final corner. It's the traditional GP circuits here, of course. Normally it is raced around the long circuits, these sorts of races, and Henrik de Vries, the first across the line, with a 2-minute 02.141, as I'll get the timing tower on your screens for now, with only 43 seconds left in the session. This doesn't appear to be a particularly good lap from De Vries, as it's going to be Daniel Moffat in the Lexus that comes out on top at the moment.
Yeah, Moffat doing really well after, of course, he made that switch from BMW. He was quite quick in the first 2 rounds, struggled a little bit in that third round of the season in Brazil, but looking here in Bahrain, he's doing very nicely indeed after that switch to the Lexus, which might have a few more different characteristics. Zoltan Farkonyi only good enough for 7th place so far in his Hearts of Racing Aston Martin, so we'll see if he can make any more improvements as he's lap ticks on. Robert Pure as well, he's had some really strong performances, has the Austrian driver now sitting in 2nd. He swapped from the McLaren to the Lexus last week as well. Again, some of these drivers just needed that time to adapt to the different car, and now here in their 2nd week, they're starting to hit the forefront. Dan Birch as well in 4th. He's had a very nice run of things here this evening. He's not really been up there. None of the McLarens have really been up there so far this season. Of course, it's only been Robert Pure who's got them a singular podium. So we'll see if Dan Birch can do anything to maybe potentially put him onto that front row of the grid, as Tom Osborne shoots himself up into 3rd. He's got 21 kilos of ballast added to that BMW, and that'll be his one and done of the session, so he will start from 3rd. Dan Birch has gone off the road. He has stopped where he is. He will not participate anymore in qualifying. So the battle for pole really is between the 2 Lexuses so far, between Moffat and Pure, as everybody starts to dive into the pit lane, not improving on their lap times. So which one of the 2 Lexuses will it be? Will it be Moffat, or will it be Robert Pure, as Henrik de Vries goes into 3rd? What about Zoltan Farkonyi as well? Can he maybe have a chance of pole position? Moffat to the line. Is it an improvement? No, it is not. Robert Pure now up to that start finish line and just misses out by 600ths of a second. The Austrian nearly snatching that pole position away from the British. Verconyi ends up in 6th, the worst qualifying he's had so far this season. Ramsey shoots himself up into 7th. He's got 34 kilos of ballast on the car as well. But for Daniel Moffat and the Lexus car, it is a debut, it is a second week, and that Lexus looking really strong here in Bahrain. I think it did at the end of the 2024 real life WEC season. And for Moffat and Pure, who of course had their struggles last week, it's from despair to absolute elation here in Bahrain, especially in qualifying.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting to actually note the fact that they got the opportunity to do 2 laps rather than 1. And, well, that has really almost benefited Robert Pure in the fact that he was able to take pole position, but not quite so. Daniel Moffat taking that one away by 600ths of a second. Hendrik de Vries and Tom Osborne within a second, and Zoltan Verconyi and Jordan 40 just outside. In fact, Alistair Ramsey 0.001 off of Zoltan Verconyi. It looks identical on the timing board. It is not quite so, as one set a 2-minute 01.887 and one set a 2-minute 01.888. And yeah, that is very, very close between the drivers. This is set to be an incredible first race.
It certainly is shaping out to be what will be an absolute stonker of a race. So, I mean, we're going to see what Zoltan Verconyi can do. We know his quali pace isn't as good as his race pace, so that could potentially be a battle through the field from your championship leader. Will he just have to, unfortunately, lose that perfect streak? That success ballast really coming in crucial here so far in Bahrain in that opening qualifying session of the evening. And, of course, Jordan 40 as well. He's got some success ballast on the car as well. So all the drivers that have success ballast go Hendrik de Vries 3rd. Then you got Osborne 4th. They all run in a line. Ramsey is the only one somewhat out of place in that order. It is going well. And Verconyi and Ramsey are switched from what their order is on the ballast. So from de Vries downwards, that would be your order of ballast. And it goes up in an incline of how much they have each, with the Freeze being the lightest. But the question is now here, Joseph, can Moffat and Pure, who had an 8/10 advantage over de Vries there in this qualifying, convert that into the race? And will they be consistent enough to be able to hold on to that?
Can't believe you forgot my name, but yes, I think it will be interesting to see whether the Lexus is all talk and all bark and no bites as, well, we head to the race today. The Lexus did not seem that outstanding last time out, but of course, now indeed it appears to be, as it was a second quicker than almost all the other cars. Daniel Moffat taking that pole position. He will line up on that front row alongside Robert Pure. Then Hendrik de Vries and Tom Osborne will be on that second row. Then Jordan 40 and Zoltan Verconyi and Alistair Ramsey, Dan Birch, Jordan Biddle and Brian Jalise round out 6 of the top 10 being in Aston Martins. Then the second page of the field, Remy Alexander Borgshaw, Monoploy. Craig Starkey is going to be the first Porsche on this grid, as Bogso, I believe, was the first Ferrari. Adam Koszałski and Matt Fordham, 14th and 15th, and Mark Cooley and Sebastian Borgerson, 16th and 17th. Then Gary Barham, Chris Willems and Lorna Martin rounding out our top 20, and Rich Green, Paul Garnham, Eero Visuri, Jorge Prieto and Franklin Stegging rounding out our field. But we are heading to green flag racing here in Bahrain, and Daniel Moffat is on the inside line of that first corner. Robert Pure is going to try and sweep around at the outside, and is he going to be able to squeeze his way through? Not quite, and that's the bollard already taken out within the first lap of this race. Now we head up the hill with potentially 2 Aston Martins side by side in the background, potentially the 2 Lexi up front in a battle alongside each other. Not quite, and Daniel Moffat holds on. Tom Osborne tries to pressure as they head through to the second sector.
Yeah, brilliant stuff there from Moffat on that inside line. It was a bit more difficult for him to get the run out of the corner, but held on well against Robert Pure, who's now under all sorts of pressure from Osborne, who was able to get past Hendrik de Vries. And Jordan Forty has also gone backwards in this one as well. He's been passed by both of Alistair Ramsey and Zoltan Varkonyi, but you can see Tom Osborne now under all sorts of pressure from Hendrik de Vries, who he passed. Heading into turn 1, it's an electric getaway from the BMW as Pure goes deep into turn 10. This now allows Tom Osborne to draw alongside, but just has to slot back in. Doesn't have enough straight line speed to get anywhere near that Lexus, but he's now looking to the outside line. Made Robert Pure really defend aggressively to the inside of turn 11. De Vries could be trying to picking up some scraps from this battle. Osborne with the good old up and under, but it was the outside line for turn 12 and 13, so we'll have to slot back in, potentially go for a late dive into turn 13. It's a very late apex into the corner, looks for it, but unfortunately just has to back out of it. But just like we've seen Varkonyi do, Moffat after that first lap, a second and a half clear, as Robert Pure has his mirrors full of BMW of Osborne.
Yes, and he is just waiting for those cars to continue to fight as into the final corner. It's Pure on the inside as Osborne on the outside line, and the two Aston Martins in the background looking to get involved. One picking up the slipstream of Robert Pure, and the other one, Zoltan Varkonyi, following through Hendrik de Vries, hoping, gambling that Aston Martin will make his way through and try to make a move into the first corner. It's going to be the middle line, in fact, for Hendrik de Vries. Pure on that inside, Osborne taking the outside, sweeping through and trying to make the move, but he's not quite going to be able to, and that opens the door for Hendrik de Vries and for Zoltan Varkonyi to make their way through. Now it's going to be the slipstream as they head down towards turn number 4, and Hendrik de Vries trying to break it, pulling to that inside. It's 3 wide as Zoltan Varkonyi tries and fail. Well, he did fail initially, but then successfully makes his way through. But on the exit of the corner, Tom Osborne just had enough grip to be able to pull himself through. Alistair Ramsey decided to fight through as well and was successful in that one, and that means that it's 4 Aston Martins in a row, and Zoltan Varkonyi almost at the bottom of it. Jordan Forty looking to try and pressure as there's yellow flags out in that second sector. A couple of drivers not had the greatest of starts. Chris Williams and Franklin Stegink, the two off the pack, but these Aston Martins look ready to fight with each other.
They certainly do, and Pure is caught all up to the back of Moffat, who had a 2-second advantage. So something's happened to Daniel Moffat that we don't know about, and Pure attacking to the inside of turn 11, not able to get the move done is the Austrian, but Moffat making a huge mistake, hemorrhaging a load of time out of turn 10, and unfortunately for the Lexus, all that gap and all that hard work he had done, fending off the cars battling behind, has come to nothing, and he now has to really be looking in these mirrors from his Lexus teammate of Robert Pure. And then Tom Osborne as well, now sitting in third, just a second clear of Alistair Ramsey. But Zoltan Varkonyi showing he is human, making a mistake in that overtake attempt from Osborne, and also De Vries, who's all over the back of Alistair Ramsey, who struggled a little bit in qualifying, did Ramsey. He was behind these 3, should I say, Aston Martins behind him in qualifying, so hopefully he can make that up in the race pace as we're heading down into turn 1. Now Osborne about 6 tenths of a second away from Robert Pure, who is just not close enough to make an attack, you would think, on Daniel Moffat, but really closing up on the brakes is the Austrian driver. That's going to allow Osborne all over the back of him, as Pure had to go deep into the corner to avoid Daniel Moffat. And are we going to see Osborne now finally get that move done? He nearly got lost out on positions, did Osborne, heading into this corner just a few laps, just last lap, and now Robert Pure is having to defend quite aggressively. Osborne with the good old up and under out of turn 4, looking into turns 5 and 6 now. Is he going to get the move done? They're still side by side, and Pure just streaks clear. Osborne has to back out of that one, but now down into turn 8, this is another overtaking opportunity. Osborne could focus on the traction, go for that switchback once again, but no, but Pure gets his poor exit. I was going to say no, he can't do the switchback, but he's gone to the outside line, which will be the inside for turns 9, and said surely the BMW will break through here at last, and he does. Osborne up into second, and now the hunt begins for Daniel Moffat in front.
It does indeed, and Robert Pure making that move. It didn't quite work out for him as, well, he drops down to P3 as now he is under pressure from the Aston Martin in behind. Don't forget as well Zoltan Varkonyi, who is trying to make his way up with pure pace, but Jordan Biddle trying to pressure him around the outside. It's actually Dan Birch trying to pressure Jordan Biddle down the outside, and there's contact between the two. Jordan Biddle's off the circuit, Dan Birch drops down, and there's yellow flags out for that stranded Aston Martin that has gone off of the circuit. It's not ideal for him, and he's going to have to rebuild from minute 1. There's a couple of drivers from that lead pack that have dropped down. It was first on that last lap, Hendrik de Vries, and now another driver joins that pack as we head on to the next lap of this race. Daniel Moffat continues to lead the way as there is a lot of gaps forming at the top, but in the mid-pack it's spicing up. It's Starkey against Jalise, and it's Starkey on that inside, Jalise on that outside line. Bogso, Fordham and Birch are 3 wide just behind them as Craig Starkey tries to make that one stick. Dan Birch tries to manage it on that inside line, but he can't do it. And, well, actually, it was Brian Jalise, in fact, and Remy Alexander Bogso has been overtaken in the end by Dan Birch and may well get overtaken by Matt Fordham down the inside. He tries to squeeze him to that inside line, and it's going to be, I believe, the BMW making his way through pretty easily. More yellow flags out now, and well, we wait to see what that one is for. I think Barham, Garnham and Lorne Martin have lost a lot of time on that previous lap, so they've dropped a little bit further down the field. But Daniel Moffat, he won't mind this chaos down at the bottom. He will certainly be happy about the chaos a little bit further up, and well, now he's 1.6 seconds clear.
Yeah, brilliant from Moffat, who's able to build that lead back up, but Osborne, he's not going to let him go without a fight. Of course, Osborne was really the standout driver last time out in Interlagos, was the driver only to separate those Aston Martins, and looked really strong until those final moments in both races where those tyres really did hit the cliff on that car. So he's now looking to maybe try and make amends and maybe try to take his first victory of the season, become the second different winner of the season, which so far is in Daniel Moffat's hands. Tom Osborne is looking to try and close it down though, with Robert Pure still hanging on just about in tow too. So for Moffat, he's still got a lot of work on his hands. He can't relax just yet. Has to be pushing on forward. So for Zoltan Varkonyi, the man who has won the first 6 races of the season, he currently lies in 6th place and is looking to try and make an attack on Jordan Forty, but not close enough just yet. Maybe that ballast starting to take effect. He did say in his post-race interview last time out in Interlagos that this circuit is where we'll really see the ballast start to come into play, especially being so heavy, because it's such a power-dependent circuit. You need that top-end speed, and Varkonyi does not really have that compared to the rest with that ballast on board. So our only DNF so far is actually Gary Barnum. Franklin Stegnick is a lap down as well, so them two have come into some big strife over the course of the past few laps. But Robert Pure now behind Osborne. He's started to pick up the pace once again. He's brought that gap down to his teammate Moffat in front from about 2.3 now down to 1.8. And that gap between him and Osborne is now about half a second. So he is starting to put his foot to the floor, or is he just been managing his tyres the best?
It's all about tyre management in these long races. And, well, while they are short stints, it's just going to be one of those where the tyres do wear a little bit more, especially at Bahrain, where it is so hot and it's going to cook the tyres. That's why we race in the evening rather than in the day, because then we would not be able to make it to the end, drivers and tyres alike. But we will continue on in this race and try to make our way to the end of it nice and cleanly. Now Hendrik de Vries flashing his lights at Mark Cooley, trying to pressure him, trying to make him make a mistake and trying to get through as well. We are 10 minutes into this session. We are 20 minutes away from the checkered flag, and Daniel Moffat is in the lead of this race, but Tom Osborne has closed right in. 0.8 seconds to the leader now and that one could be cooking up a storm. Looking further back, and looking much further back, in fact, at Lorne Martin as he tries to attack Paul Garnham for that P20 position. He did get right in behind. If he doesn't make a move, I fear that Morna Ploy will do. It's Lorne and Morna, and Lorne gets that power down on the exit to try and attack Paul, who's not invited into the Lorna and Morna gang, and well, at the moment just has to sit in behind. He's not particularly happy with the traction that he got off the exit, so he stays in behind. But yeah, Tom Osborne within a second now of Daniel Moffat. Robert Pure not too far back either.
He certainly is not. Moffat slowly being reeled in now by the two behind him. That top three have sort of made quite a big gap to the Aston Martins of Ramsey, 40 and Varkonyi. It seems the Aston Martin maybe not as strong around here like we've seen so far at Le Mans, at Interlagos, and also at some of the, of course, the other circuits we've been to this season. And now we're going to see Moffat try his best at just trying to keep this gap as big as possible. He really is now just trying to focus up, try hit his marks perfectly, and the more he's able to make that Lexus wide, if these guys do come up to the back of him, the better his chances will be. We have about 17 minutes left in this race, so he's still got a long old way to go to keep these guys behind. So for Osborne, he has plenty of time to make an attack. Same with Pure as well. That gap about 4 tenths between Pure and Osborne, and that gap now between the top two less than a second. So will the BMW be able to pounce and be the second different winner of the season, or will it go to the way of Lexus, of course the newest car on the game in this GT3 category? And so far for Moffat and Pure, they have took to it like a duck to water. It took them a week to adjust, but now they have started to really hit the high heavens. They've started to really get the grips of this car and wrangle everything out of it, and Osborne is having to defend quite aggressively against Robert Pure. Down into turn one they go. Pure looking to that inside line, just not enough in that braking zone. Osborne, though, will be a compromised run out of turns 2 and 3. Had to take that tighter line. This might allow Pure now to get the drive he needs up the hill. Osborne all the way to that inside white line. Pure now on the outside. Could he just break that a little bit earlier? Force Osborne deep. He's tried to do just that. Will he be able to get the run, though? Out of the corner, a little slide from Osborne, but he's just able to stay ahead, and the BMW driver is able to keep his position for now. Are we starting to see the BMW maybe struggle for tyres a little bit compared to the Lexus of Pure? I did say, has Pure been managing his tyres the best of the lot? Certainly is seeming so far. But for Daniel Moffat, he has pulled that gap up to 1.5, so he'll want these two to keep squabbling behind him here, Joseph.
It's working exactly in his favour at the moment, as I believe that might be another issue for our championship leader, Zoltan Varkonyi, who dominated the first few rounds. And, well, in the background of that shot of Zoltan Varkonyi, round went another driver. Not quite sure who that was, but it may well have been one of the lapped cars, Franklin Stegging potentially, as Lorne Martin has called it quits in this race. But yeah, for Zoltan Varkonyi, that is absolutely not what he would have wanted to see. And for Hendrik de Vries, he's trying to make a move back up. It's been a hellish race for the two near the top of the field, and one actually at the top of the field, and they will be looking to come back for race 2. Hendrik de Vries trying to pick up as much as he can, but as I say that, he makes contact with Remy Alexander Borgshaw and loses his rear wing, and he is pretty much now out of contention for anything good in this race. Hendrik de Vries just went on that line, and they both spun around. Alexander Borgshaw has come out of it all right, but Hendrik de Vries certainly has not.
Yeah, a disaster there for Hendrik de Vries, and he's lost that rear wing, of course, so he's going to be slipping and sliding, and there we go, a spin out of turn 14, and that's de Vries' race over. He likes losing his rear wing. He lost it twice in, of course, Interlagos, did de Vries, so he likes having that little less downforce. You think he would start to get good at it, but unfortunately not there. And for Zoltan Varkonyi, it seems that perfect streak is now going to come to an end. The Hungarian hero, unfortunately here, has met his maker, and that is 50 kilos of ballast around the Sakir International Circuit. Now down in 12th place. The lowest we've ever seen him run was 2nd, and now he currently sits in 12th. So it's been really a dismal, an absolutely dismal race for Varkonyi, from the highs of Interlagos to now the lows of Sakir. And Moffat, again, he's being reeled in by Osborne here, Joseph. It just seems that the Lexus can't be consistent enough at the front. He slowly bleeds that time over a course of a couple laps, and we could see by the end of this race Osborne just all over the back if he doesn't fight with Pure once again.
Yes, it's all about now the management for the Lexus and the BMW and how well they can get to the end of this race. It's been interesting, in fact, to see the Lexus, a new addition to this championship, within the last couple of races, already shooting its way up the top, and the drivers that are used to it, Moffat and Pure, already up at the very top of the field. Pure holding the fastest lap with a 2 minute .1.784. So interesting to see the pace advantage they've had here at Bahrain, and they look to continue it on as we're over halfway through the race now, and Daniel Moffat leads the way. Tom Osborne right in behind. Robert Pure keeping Osborne honest and keeping that pressure on the car in front, looking to that inside line, but that's only a move to try to pressure Osborne, to try and make the BMW get on with it and allow him to catch up to Daniel Moffat, but no such luck on this occasion, and Tom Osborne will surely keep trying to continue to lead the way. Looking a bit further back, more battles going on. Chris Willems, Mornaploy and Jorge Prieto. It feels as though Mornaploy, whilst he hasn't had the greatest race, has certainly had a dramatic one as he makes his way through on Prieto. So does, well no, that's even Prieto making his way through on Chris Willems. They both made that move on Chris Willems now, and they're up to 17th and 18th place. Willems in the Inception Racing 70 down into 19th, and that is the latest swap on the circuit. Dan Birch trying to chase down Craig Starkey in the number 70 for McLaren, and the number 91 Porsche even up ahead. This is the battle for 7th and 8th, but of course the headlines will go all the way to that battle for P2 and Osborne and Pure, and potentially the battle for P1 with Dan Moffat up at the very top of the field. Birch closes in on Starkey as we tick over the halfway point, and with only 12 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, 12 minutes to go. It really is starting to become crunch time for some of these drivers, especially at the front of your field. If your name is Tom Osborne, you're really going to need to just try and reel in Moffat as much as you possibly can over the next 2 or 3 laps, so you have enough time at the end to really start mounting that pressure, and you can have as many opportunities as possible for the race lead and the race victory, because of course Varkonyi's perfect streak will now come to an end, and we are going to have a new winner here in round 4 and the 7th race of the season. It's taken us 7 races to do it, and plenty of success ballast as well, but Varkonyi's streak will be over. Further back from that top 3 with about a 5.5 second advantage over 4th and 5th are that top 3 against 40 and Ramsey, and the 2 Aston Martins are now potentially going to get into their own squabble themselves. There's only a few temps separating Ramsey and 40 as we now head up the hill into turn number 4, and we'll see if Ramsey can just hold on to this position. He's good at driving under this pressure, is Alistair. Of course, we saw it in the Algarve of Portimao and also at Interlagos as well. Didn't seem to crumble under any sorts of pressure. Really calm head on those shoulders. And of course, being a little bit lighter than Jordan 40, will be looking to try and hold on to that position as we now head into turn 8, the hairpin. And it seems that he just is able to get that drive out of these corners as Alistair Ramsey ahead of 40 to hang on to that place and not really give 40 any opportunity to be sniffing at an overtake. A little bit wide on the entry of turn 10, but was able to recover it quite nicely through there. So for this battle here shaping up for 4th, it's the 2 Aston Martins, but they are potentially now, them going a little bit slower, just invite him, Adam Kozłowski, into the fray. This is going to be his highest finish of the season, up in 6th, and it's looking to potentially break into the top 5 for the first time this season now.
Which would be a very good finish for him, as there's more yellow flags out. I'm not sure what that is for, as losing time is Remy Alexander Borgshaw, who's had more issues. It was him as out of turn number 11. He clearly had some sort of off, and he went off of the circuit and just left over to the side just to allow everybody else to make their way through, and he comes back out in P15 after what has not been the greatest race for him, as there's 3 DNFs from this race. It's Barham and Garnham and Lorne Martin as well, but that means that we still have 22 cars on this grid as we head into the final third, the final 10 minutes of this race, and it looks to be a very exciting one, with now Tom Osborne only 3 tenths behind Daniel Moffat and ready and waiting to pounce.
Yep, he certainly is looking to try and make himself as large as he can in the mirrors of that Lexus, but he's in a bit of a Lexus sandwich, but he needs to look out from behind him as well. I say he's in that sandwich. Robert Pure is looking very racy indeed, and if Osborne makes one wrong move, one wrong attacking advancement on Daniel Moffat, Pure is there to take every little bit of advantage from that. So Osborne has to play this one smart. He has to be strategic, and it's a high-speed game of chess. It's all about keeping that mental block behind, all that pressure. Just keep that off your shoulders and just think about what's in front of you and drive the car as best as you can. Do not overthink the battle that you are having, the inputs that you need to make, because that's when you start to see the mistakes creep in from the likes of Osborne and Moffat if they do start to feel that pressure. So now Osborne really just needs to keep getting as close to the back of Moffat, maybe scaring him offline into some of these corners, looking for a lunge to the inside, but not actually going for it. And you can see how much later he breaks into turn 13. Osborne now with a drive out of that corner as well as we head down into the turns 14 and 15. Pure just trying to keep in tow as well. It does seem that Lexus may be a little bit quicker in those straight lines as Osborne go for a bit more of a narrow line. Pure looking purely for exit, and Tom Osborne now might have to defend from the Austrian behind, or potentially use that as an attack on the Brit in front of him. So for Moffat, he's in that Lexus sandwich. He is looking to be the first different driver of the season other than Volconi to take a race victory. Pure maybe looking to the inside line, but no, not close enough to get that move done, and Osborne taking a lot of curb through that first apex, and Moffat crumbles! Moffat crumbles under pressure. He spins round on the exit of turn 1, a key traction zone of the circuit, and it gives Tom Osborne the race lead. Disaster for the man that's led every single minute of this race so far, but as soon as the pressure started to mount on him, the cracks started to form, and he makes that mistake. So with a battle at the front now, it's the Brit versus the Austrian, but this time it's Osborne from Pure for that top 2 place. And will Lexus still be able to redeem themselves now with the Austrian?
I think that is very similar to what we've seen from Hendrik de Vries for this entire season so far, where they just haven't been able to get it done, and it's about those who can execute it towards the end of the race. That is why Zoltan Vakonyi has been so dominant, but in this race he has been nowhere near, and he's down in P13 with 2 new protagonists. And Tom Osborne and Robert Pure are looking to fight for this race victory. Moffat comes back onto the circuit in P6 and trying to pressure Adam Koszalski, so that might not be all that's said and done for the Lexus 78, but we will see what happens with the last couple of laps of this race. Just under 6 minutes to go, and speaking of Hendrik de Vries, he's retired from the race, so has Morna Ploy, and we now have 20 drivers left in this one, and these are the 2 battling it out for the very top spot. 20 drivers in this race, and only one can take that victory. Tom Osborne and Robert Pure seem to be the prime protagonists for it, but if they do anything like Daniel Moffat did, then they'll be dropping down like flies. We have just a couple of laps to go in this one, and it is going to get right down to the wire as to who it's going to be, Osborne or Pure, and well, Alistair Ramsey will be hoping that it's a rinse and repeat of the Daniel Moffat incident.
Yep, hopefully not. Osborne will be looking to avoid that at every cost available. We'll just be looking to try and get this race win to the line. I think we have about 3 laps, so including this one, 3 laps of the Sakhir International Circuit to go. And it's going to be a heavyweight fight between Osborne, who was a standout driver last week in Brazil, looking to try and make it a race victory here in Bahrain. He really stood out in Brazil, being the quickest driver, not in that Aston Martin, and taking some very good drives along with him until that BMW, especially in that first race, started to eat its tyres away. And now with that extra ballast on the car, is looking to just try and streak further and further clear. He's got a total of 21 kilos extra on that BMW. That is why you maybe see Pure in that Lexus being that little bit quicker down the straights. But at the moment for Osborne, now in that clean air, he is able to start to stretch his legs. Alistair Ramsey's been able to pull away from Jordan 40 as well. So that battle for P3 on the track might be well and truly over. And for Osborne, he really is starting to streak clear against Pure. That gap now 1 second between the pair. I don't think we're going to get much more squabbling throughout this race as Pure goes wide as well through turn 12. I think he's starting to overdrive that car, seeing the race win so close to him. But another podium to add to his tally. Of course, got 3rd place out in the Algarve of Portimao in Portugal. And he's looking to now go 1 step further in 2nd. Could he potentially take that top step away in the 2nd race of the evening? We'll have to wait and see on that one. But as Osborne crosses the line with about 3 minutes and 30 to go, I think we might be able to get... No, we're going to get 2 more laps out of this one. So I was right with 3 laps to go. So at the end of this one, it'll be the final lap of the race.
Yeah, not long to go now. And Tom Osborne and Robert Pure are just going to continue that battle until the checkered flag. They are the only drivers within range of each other, and it's fitting that it's the two at the top. The two who have been fighting all race along, who are the ones still scrapping away, as they are the only ones, in fact, within a second. The next closest is Sebastian Borgerson, who is 1.3 seconds off of Eero Visuri. And, well, in fact, the gap between Jordan 40 and Alistair Ramsey keeps flip-flopping around that 1.0 second mark down to about 9/10 of a second. So in fact that would be the closest battle on the circuit when they get it right and when Jordan 40 gets close through a corner. But yeah, it is what it is, and they are now heading towards the end of this race. And Jordan 40 looking for that podium position. Fun fact about Jordan 40, I came up on his TikTok For You page the other day, and so he's asked for a very specific bias towards him, which I'm not going to give him, but nonetheless, he is going to... I think he's warranted that praise today. 1.1 seconds behind Alistair Ramsey and challenging for that podium. Osborne and Pure heading towards the end of this one now, and they've only got a couple more corners till the final run around the Bahrain International Circuit here in race 1 in the LMGT3 Challenge.
Yep, they certainly are, and that gap ever closer. And Pure knows that this next tour of the circuit that we're about to begin will be the final of this first race, and potentially his opportunity to take his first race victory of the season and brutally snatch it away from Tom Osborne in front of him. The battle begins now on the final lap as we get underway here under the lights in Bahrain for the final lap of here, a 30-minute absolutely accelerating race. And look at Pure under braking, getting really close to the back of Tom Osborne as they now get the drive out of the corner. But does the Austrian have enough left in the tank? Is there enough gas there to really put that pressure on and really amount a challenge against Tom Osborne? Looking to that inside, trying to scare the BMW offline. Not working into turn 4 though. Pure needs to get the power down nicely out of here. Needs to really be tucked up out of turn 7 as you go through 5 here. It's a little kink, then into 6 and 7. Really needs to be all over the back of the BMW. Heading down the hill into 8 to at least try to get the run up into 9 and 10. Late on the brakes once again goes Robert Pure, all about focusing on that exit, and he does get quite a nice run against the BMW. But will it be enough as we head into 9 and 10? Can he send it from this far back on the brakes to try and get that move done? He's looking for it, but no, just not close enough once again. Osborne driving really well under all this pressure from the Lexus Lexus behind, who he's been under pressure from all the time. He's got in front as soon as he made that overtake. Pure has been determined to take that one back, and now into turn 11. Is Osborne going to be able to hold on here? It does seem likely. He just needs a good run out of 13. Then surely he will be home drive from Robert Pure behind and not able to get that move. And will be the Lexus. He's got one more sector to go, and Pure goes deep into the corner. He tried a late lunge. It wasn't enough, and surely Osborne has this, but the Lexus has got a good drive out of turn 13. Tom Osborne staring to be the first different winner of the season. We've only had Varkonyi so far. That streak will now well and truly come to an end. It's been a beautiful run from Varkonyi, but now for BMW, it's the star boy in Brazil. He makes that a statement here in Bahrain. Tom Osborne wins the first race of the evening here in Sakir, and a beautiful drive that was from the BMW man, just from Robert Pure, 3 attempts behind. Ramsey in third, 40 in fourth. Kaljeski does get into that top 5 for the first time this season. A brilliant drive from the McLaren man, only just behind Jordan 40 as well. Moffat, after that spin from the lead, the sheer heartbreak for him in 6th, with Dan Birch in 7th. Forden will be 8th, Starkey 9th, and then Biddle will round out your top 10. But Tom Osborne breaks the streak, and it is Zoltan Varkonyi, who his perfection run has come to an end.
Yes, Zoltan Varkonyi, poor performance here today, and he's actually not that far off the last finisher, as he ended up in P14, but Tom Osborne taking that one away and taking it home for BMW as well. The cars that, essentially, the cars that are not the Aston Martins have been notoriously poor so far this season, and well, we head towards the end of this race 1 now with an entirely different winner and almost an entirely different top 5. Only Alistair Ramsey and Jordan 40 in those Aston Martins in 3rd and 4th are changing that. But yeah, the Aston Martin that seemed overpowered in the first few rounds may well have lost its crown as the quickest car. The Lexus looked incredible in this race, and not only in the hands of Robert Pure, but don't forget as well the hands of Daniel Moffat took it almost all the way to the victory. And well, Mark Cooley, the other driver in the Lexus, ended up P12 as more drivers have started to race it today. Monoploy, Paul Garnham and Gary Barham as well were all in a Lexus, and while their races didn't go their way, it wasn't down to the fault of the car, and I think more it was a driving error. Didn't see what ended up happening to them, but I'd imagine it was an incident on the circuit rather than them just getting frustrated with the pace of the car. They all seem to have pretty decent pace, just got involved in incidents. Is this the end of the Aston Martin's dominance?
It certainly could be, but could it just be circuit specific? Is it just Sakir? Is it really a strong circuit for that Aston Martin? Or are we starting to see that somewhat balance of the performance come from these Aston Martin drivers? But of course, we've got to remember they all do have ballast, but so does Osborne as well. And it was a very, very good drive from him. So he'll be looking now to take this into the second race and maybe make it 2 wins of the evening here in Sakir. And he really has shone. Since that first race in Brazil was really where he made his mark, wasn't it, here, Joseph? And since that first race, he's been on flying form, and he's managed to bring that over to Sakir now, and really now start to put some pressure on those front guys. And if he carries on like this, maybe expect him to maybe slowly eat in on Zoltan Varkonyi's championship lead.
Of course, don't forget it's a long season as well, so even though he has such a dominant lead at the top of the standings, Zoltan, it may not last for very long, as the new drivers who have just been picking up points while Zoltan has been flying away are sort of levelling the playing field. That is race 1 in Bahrain complete. Stick around for race 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have another race this evening. Do not fear. Race number 2 is upon us, and we are here at the Sakir International Circuit for round number 2 of this evening, and round number 5, I believe it is, of this season. Feel free to correct me, because I think I've just had one of those brain fade moments, but I believe at least that it is round number 5. Let me just find out.
Round
Have I
4.
got it right? Oh, it's round 4. Round 5. I got too excited.
Yep.
Round 5's next week in Imola, and well, actually, I'll run through the calendar now while we've got a little bit of time, while we wait for everybody to join the session. We've got Le Mans on the 2nd of June, Algarve on the 9th, Interlagos and Bahrain. That makes 4 rounds, in fact. I can't count. Then next week we head to Imola before a week break. And round number 6, Fuji. So far, not sure whether that one has been changed, but it is subject to change, depending on various different factors within the game. And then Kota, round number 7, Spa, Monza, and then Sebring to round out our season here on Le Mans Ultimate. Season number 2 of the LMGT3 Challenge, powered by Coach Dave Delta, Driveline Media, and Driven Minds as well, accelerating positive change. And, well, Driven Minds a very good cause. And, of course, before the first round, we spoke to a representative from Driven Minds all about their cause. If you would like to check that out, check out round number 1 of this. It shouldn't be too far down on the live broadcast section of the YouTube channel. Also, make sure to subscribe while you're here. If you want to chat in the chat, you've got to subscribe for 5 minutes, and so come chat, get involved, and subscribing would never go to amiss as well. We've got about 1 minute 30 left in qualifying, or in practice even, which allows us to just debrief what we saw in race 1. And, well, it was a really Jekyll and Hyde performance from Zoltan Vakonyi compared to what he's done earlier on in this season. He didn't look quite on the pace. Do you reckon he'll have that comeback in the second half?
I don't know. It really is seeming like a real lost cause here is for Zoltan Vakonyi here in Bahrain. Of course, he might be able to finish a little bit higher up after that mistake, of course, he had. So he could be able to finish in that top 10, maybe that top 5 region. That's where he was running before those mistakes slowly started to creep in, especially with that much to do about nothing move into turn 4 against... that was against Hendrik de Vries and also your eventual race winner, Tom Osborne. So yeah, Vakonyi really looking to try and switch things around. Same with de Vries as well, the man second in the standings. He wants a bigger race here in this second round race of the evening. Sorry, does de Vries. He wants a better case of things. But of course, Vakonyi's perfect streak now comes to an end. And it was a brilliant run of 6 races with 6 race victories. But talking about the standings, it's 490 points for Zoltan Vakonyi. This is after last week's rounds, not including the first race we had here. Then de Vries, then Lettinen, who's not here tonight. Same with Shan Khan as well. Alistair Ramsey 5th on 387 points. It's really close from de Vries all the way down to around about Daniel Moffat, who's on in 6th with 384 points. Then you've got Jordan 40 on 356. Jordan Biddle on 309. Then it's Robert Pure on 308. He'll surely move himself further up the standings. And actually, this is his debut in the Lexus. He wasn't here last week. That I completely forgot. So he really has took to that Lexus like a duck to water, has Robert Pure. Really good drive from him in that first race. And then Jorge Prieto rounds out your top 10 with 274 points to his name as well. So here we are then for Hyperpole number 2 of the evening. Let's do a little prediction here, Joseph. Now we've seen that first qualifying. Who is your tip for pole position?
I think you've got to make a good case for one of the Lexi again. I slotted in a Lexi in the first round because I thought it was a really good. I thought it was a really good segue. I thought that is probably what the plural of Lexus would be, but of course not 100% sure. We're going to have to check with the Lexus manufacturers on that. Although I don't think they'd reply to our message on that one as we head to that qualifying session that we just mentioned. And we have 5 minutes on that timer. Don't forget, a lap around here is about 2 minutes. So they're going to have a little bit more time if they don't get it perfectly right on that first run to get it going one more time. They've got about 30 seconds of leeway. And, well, if they want to take all that time preparing for this first lap, then they're going to be in a whole world of trouble when it comes to the second one. If they don't get their lines right on the first occasion, and, well, if they make much ado about nothing, because it really is nothing. They'll have practiced this lap plenty of times, and they'll have practiced this qualifying session plenty of times as well. They will be trying to reach peak performance, reach flow state in this qualifying session, as well, of course, as we mentioned, there is no other car out on the circuit. As we mentioned during that first qualifying, there is no other cars out on the circuit. It is just you, yourself, and yourself. And you are just, you know, trying to pound out those laps. You'll have done it many a time, and well, hopefully you can get the quickest lap you possibly can. The likes of Zoltan Vakonyi will be desperate to get a good time on the board.
Yeah, he certainly will. He'll want to just try and maybe recreate that first qualifying where he got into 6th place, and he's looking to build from there. So for Robert Pure here in the Lexus, I'm on board with him currently as he's preparing to start his first flying lap. He was one of the only drivers to improve over the course of 2 laps. The tyres just faded away after that first one. So let's see what the Austrian can do as he heads up to that start-finish line, and the lap here in Sakir begins now. It was a sunny qualifying for Q1 for Quali 1, and now here for Quali 2 for Race 2. It's now gone into the night. The dark skies loom above as we head into turn 1, down to first gear. Really have to stop that car and roll it through as you then slowly bring that power back up gently on the throttle till you get through turn 2. That's when you stamp on it, get all the power you possibly can from under that Lexus, and then you just push it forwards up the hill into turn number 4, down to second gear. Just clip that inside apex curb, run the car out wide as much as you can, but try get a quite nice run as you head through turn 5, flick it through there, down the gears into turns 6 and now through 7. Just a big lift there, just let off the throttle completely, let the car roll through. You then head down the hill into turn 8, down to first gear. You then roll the car on the corner exit, slowly bring that traction back up once again, easy to the rear, a little bit off camber through there as you head into 9 and 10 as hard as you can on the brakes to get the car stopped for turn 10. A little bit wide from the apex for Pure, but it can give him a nice run out of the corner as he then heads down the back straight on the international start-finish straight. And now heading into turn 11, a very tricky corner. It does narrow up quite a lot on corner exit, just keeps dragging you further and further out wide as you head up into turn 12. It's a big lift once again, let the car roll through, stamp back on the power to full throttle, and then into turn 13, down to second gear, clip that inside apex curb, run the car all the way out wide as you possibly can. The question is, will Robert Pure be able to snatch pole position away this time, to be or not to be on pole position for the Austrian as he heads into the final corner now, down to second gear. It was second place in Q1, in Hyperpole 1, and second place in the race. Can he finally hit the forefront of the field? It's Pure to the line, and across the line. That didn't actually count as a proper lap. There we go. And it's a 2-minute 1.1, a brilliant lap time, and 6 tenths clear of Vakonyi and Osborne. But I think that's still a little bit off what we saw in that first hyperpole. But could that be down to track conditions?
It may well be, and that's, well, I'm not sure what's just happened to Robert Pure there on the circuit, but that won't matter to him because he's just taken that pole position away. And, well, the preliminary pole position at the very least, as we've still got a few quick drivers to come across the line. Jordan 40 will not be setting a lap time. He's in the pit lane. Remy Alexander Borgshaw goes into the mid-pack. Sebastian Borgerson will be the last driver to set a lap time, unless Franklin Stegink, who's in the first sector, will do anything. And, well, it looks like he may well do, as he didn't have the greatest time of it in the first lap, but he'll see what he can do in the second, as everybody else is trying to improve on their laps as well. And, well, Sebastian Borgerson is in that first sector trying to make an impact on everybody else's laps. Robert Pure is still in that lead, though, by a whopping 6 tenths of a second. That is incredible stuff from the Austrian, and he looks like he may well be taking that pole position away at a canter.
Yeah, he certainly is looking to try and take it away. Robert Pure is actually purple in that first sector though, so is he currently on the rate of improvement enough to try and keep that pole position firmly within his hands as he's coming up to that 6-2 split very, very shortly? And is Robert Pure the man we need to look out for the rest of the season? Swap from that McLaren, he's actually backed out of it. So Robert Pure, that's all he wrote in this qualifying session. Is anyone going to do anything about it though? He's 6 temps clear at the moment. Osborne, is he going to do enough to snatch it away? Of course, he won that opening race of the evening. Can he take the second pole position of the evening? Across the line he goes. Is it enough? No, just not enough. Alistair Ramsey into second. Dan Birch up into 5th. Hendrik de Vries crossing the line now. He stays 6th. Fastest Brian Jalise in 7th. Stegnick stays 10th. Biddle, can he improve up the order as he's now coming out of the final corner? Can he at least break into that top 5? Starkey goes up into 9th. Here comes Biddle to the line. And he does improve, and that will put him up into about 6th place. Yes, it is 6th place, exactly where I said he could go. Jordan Biddle up to 6th. But the man who just missed out on pole position last time and the race victory as well, it's the man who is really loving this Lexus here in Sakir. It's Robert Pure on pole position.
Yes, what a pole position for Robert Pure, and he will take that pole position away. It will be Alistair Ramsey to line up alongside him on that front row, and that is pretty impressive, all things considered, as now we have a look at the confirmed grid. Robert Pure is in that pole position by over half a second ahead of Alistair Ramsey in P2. Zoltan Varkonyi in 3rd place, and Tom Osborne in 4th. Dan Birch will take home that 5th in qualifying at the very least, as Jordan Biddle will line up alongside him in 6th place. Then it's an all Aston Martin, 4th row of the grid. Hendrik de Vries, Brian Jalise, and well, those two rhyming, and they are both going to try and be high on the timing as we head towards the half an hour for this race around Sakir. Then Brian Jalise is heading up. Matt Fordham and Craig Starkey rounding out the top 10. Franklin Stegink, Adam Kashowski, Morna Ploy, Sebastian Borgerson, Remy Alexander Borgshaw, Iro Vasuri, Paul Garnham, Rich Green and Jorge Prieto round out only 19 cars setting lap times, with Daniel Moffat, Jordan Forty, Mark Cooley and Gary Barham not setting lap times. But, well, a very interesting one for Daniel Moffat to be right at the bottom of the order.
Yeah, I think what they're doing here is trying to save. Of course, you take your quali set of tyres into the race. That's what you drive on in the race. So I think they're just trying to save some tyre life. Taking, of course, 2 push laps away from them will mean that they could be better near the end. And that could have been what cost Daniel Moffat that race victory in the last one. Maybe tyre wear just getting a little bit too high, and that traction completely going from the back of the Lexus car itself, and of course it just spinning around on him so violently on the exit of turn 1. But it's the other Lexus of Robert Pure lining up from pole position. Alongside him is the man who finished 3rd, Alistair Ramsey. Then it's Zoltan Varkonyi, a lot better here in this qualifying, and also looking to try and put his streak back to amends, but he's got the man that broke that streak alongside him of Tom Osborne in 4th, Dan Birch 5th, Jordan Biddle in 6th, Hendrik de Vries 7th, looking to make amends after breaking his front wing in the last one, Brian Jalise 8th, Fordham 9th, Craig Starkey in 10th, Stegnick for 11th, Krajowski 12th, Morna Ploy 13th, Borgensen in 14th, it's Alexander Borgshaw in 15th, then for Zuri, Garnham, Green, Pieretto, Moffat, Forty, Cooley and Barnum will round out your grid. But as we head to that green flag now, it's the Austrian of Robert Pure, who took his first pole position of the season. He took his second place of the season in race 1. Can he finally become the bride and take that race win as we're about to get underway here under the lights in Sakir? And it's go, go, go. It's green flag here in Sakir, and Robert Pure with a beautiful launch off the line. Same with Tom Osborne as well, already attacking not only Zoltan Varkonyi, but Alistair Ramsey heading into that first corner. There's also one of the McLarens further back having a lunge into that first corner. But look at Osborne sweeping round that outside on Alistair Ramsey. Can the BMW move into second place? Ramsey just able to hold on for now. Varkonyi on the outside, forced onto the curb Pure leads the way brilliantly as we head up into turn 4, but he's going to come under pressure as Ramsey's in that slipstream heading up into turn 4. For Kanye looking to the inside now. Ramsey trying a late lunge to the inside. A little bit of contact made, but not enough to send any of them spinning. For Kanye now looking for that move on Osborne. Gets it done through turn 4 as we head into 5 and 6. The BMW still holding it in there, but for Kanye holds on to third, and it's Pure with a dream getaway from pole position, and he holds on to the race lead, but Alistair Ramsey will be hot on his heels over the course of the next few laps.
You'd really think he will be, as he senses an opportunity to try and take a victory in this race. Zoltan Vakonyi obviously not on the pace this evening, or at least the pace that he would be expecting this evening, and so he is further down the field, and now it opens up an opportunity for the drivers up ahead to get a good result. Robert Pure right up the top of this field, and Alistair Ramsey looking to pressure, not going for that inside line just yet, but desperate to try and make his way past, because of course he will want to get that lead away, not only so he can have the on-track lead, but also so he can stave off that pressure from Zoltan Vakonyi behind. He knows how good the 27 is around this, around generally, but around this circuit he's not been great, and he's trying to prove everybody wrong this evening. He's already gapped Tom Osborne in behind, and Vakonyi looks for a move on Alistair Ramsey. Is it going to be out of the final corner? No. Is it going to be in the run towards the first corner? He is going to try and do so, and well, he sits in that slipstream. He's going to get a lovely bit of tow as he heads down towards the first corner, and he tries to chase down Robert Pure, but first he has to get past the moving obstacle, and the difficult moving obstacle that is Alistair Ramsey, and he has to sit behind as they head into the first corner. It's the end of the first lap. Robert Pure leads away.
Yeah, Pure leading away very nicely. Ramsey behind. We know he is that immovable object, as Joseph said. He just is able to soak up that pressure like a sponge, and he's just able to hold on to it and not show any cracks. He thrives in it. He just seeks in all that pressure, and it just makes him a better driver. So is he going to be able to hold on to the Hungarian hero behind, who has of course had his streak broken and could now be maybe a new leash of life underneath inside that Aston Martin, to try and right his previous wrongs from that last race and take that race victory to at least make it 7 from 8. But Ramsey will be that immovable force in his way. It will be that mobile chicane that just never seems to end, because Ramsey is oh so good at his defensive work. Pure now a second clear of Ramsey as we're heading into turn 11. Osborne slowly falling back, not as great of a start as we saw him have in that first race. They could potentially just be trying to bring those tyres in. Dan Birch as well doing really well in his McLaren. It seems that Kozlowski and Birch doing really well here this evening in their McLarens. It does seem that it's favouring this circuit quite nicely. De Vries in 6th as well could start to maybe put some pressure on that McLaren in front of him. But as we head down the hill once more into the final corner, still Vakonyi behind Ramsey, but I would expect Vakonyi within the next few laps to be potentially making some lunges into those heavy braking zones and trying to make some overtakes.
Ramsey pushing so hard on that first lap has actually cost him a lot of time as they head towards the second one now, and well, it's just not gone particularly well this race start for Alistair Ramsey. He took the gamble to try and pressure Robert Pure, but it hasn't quite worked out as Franklin Stegging goes for a move in the background on Matt Fordham. He is on that inside line. Is he going to be able to hold it on that custom liveried BMW? And he's going to try as he sweeps around the outside in the 31 and he gets through. Starkey tries to get through as well, and well, the slipstream is going to be offered in fact to the BMW of Fordham, and that's going to help him, but it's going to cause him dirty air into the corner, so Starkey can afford to brake later, and Starkey does afford to brake later. Starkey makes his way up, and he moves into 9th place now. Fordham not quite having enough to fight back, and well, he has managed to make his way through, and he moves up to P9. Good teamwork between himself and Franklin Stegging as well, but of course now Stegging is going to try and continue his way up and try to break free from the clutches of Craig Starkey and Matt Fordham, because there's a 3-second gap to Adam Kozlowski, and well, whilst they have worked together to get past Matt Fordham, of course, parting is such sweet sorrow, and Craig Starkey now will try to make it a sour sorrow as Franklin Stegging tries to close in on Koshachki and build the gap up to Craig Starkey behind. There's not much pressure on Fordham from Vashuri in P11, as that's a 4.2 second gap, but of course Stegging will be aiming for a high result, especially as that first lap, or the first race this evening, did not go as planned.
No, certainly not. And in that, we've had someone who didn't have a great first race, and another incident as well happened within all of that battle between Starkey and also Fordham. Hendrik de Vries had a spin on the exit of turn 3, so he's dropped down to 15th place from what was 6th, as Jordan Biddle now looks to the inside of Paul Garnham, I think that is, for 16th place. So it's Gary Barnum for 17th, and Garnham's just in front. They seem to just be connected to one another, Garnham and Barnum. They're always together, no matter where you see them in the course of a race. And also it was Mornay Ploy and Remy Alexander Borgson, and I think maybe Sebastian Borgenson all getting involved in an instant out in the exit turn 7. But it's some huge squabbling into turn 1. It's Vazuri versus Prieto. Prieto able to hold on to 11th place, and further back Daniel Moffat was trying to get past Hendrik de Vries. Has he done so? As he now squabble over 14th place? There's de Vries on the outside line. We know that Aston Martin is quite quick in a straight line, but Moffat on the inside line will try and brake later. Just get that car stopped at the apex, not allow de Vries to get the run on the outside line. He doesn't do so, and Moffat gets that 14th place from him and is now looking to make his way further up the order. But compared that to the man who was battling with in that first race, Robert Pure, he's now got a 2-second advantage over the 2 Aston Martins behind. And Robert Pure having a really strong race here once again. 2 really strong outings so far in this evening. And for Alistair Ramsey, he's still holding on strong as well from Falconi behind, and has extended that gap ever so slightly to his fellow Aston Martin behind.
I mean, it's interesting. We always talk about Hendrik de Vries, and we always look at Hendrik de Vries as one of the quickest drivers on this field. But he never appears to be up there towards the end of the race. Foul words are but foul wind, and well, of course, that means that he's not essentially got any end product in him, and he's going to try and prove us wrong this evening. But the qualifying did not work out for him, and now Daniel Moffat, whose qualifying also did not work out for him, means that he is down in P14, and he also has to try and fight forward. Iro Vashuri will be the next car up for him, and the next obstacle on his journey up the field as he looks to that inside line. But again, it must just be either sighting out a braking zone or the pressure, and well, he is now just trying to apply that pressure as they head down the main straight, as the other end of the main straight, Vakonyi on the rear of Ramsey and trying to make something work, trying to open up a gap on Ramsey. The desperation increases.
It certainly does. Vakonyi really having to apply that pressure, just try and get past Ramsey. But the more and more he sees that Lexus get away in front of his fellow Aston Martin of the Brit of Alistair Ramsey, the more frustrated, the more desperate Vakonyi will get. And the more he'll be looking at any opportunity to get by, as he's all over the back into turn 8 of Ramsey, as they then get back on the power ever so slowly. Just not enough to be able to get by. Of course, Vakonyi with 50 kilos, and then Ramsey is a little bit lighter than his fellow Aston Martin man, so it means he's able to just get the power out of those corners nicer, and is able to really put his foot down and be able to just break away that little bit quicker down those straights. It's 50 kilos for Zoltan Vakonyi and 34 for Alistair Ramsey, and that really is coming into effect, as you can see. So for Vakonyi, I think he's got to be really smart about this one here, Joseph. He's got to just focus on tyre management and hope that Ramsey's pushing so hard his tyres hit the cliff near the end. And I think the best Vakonyi really is going to get in this one is that second place, because I just don't think anyone in this race really has the pace of Robert Pure in front.
No, it really doesn't feel like anybody is going to be able to catch up to that Lexus, and it'll be another case of wherefore art thou, Robert, just like it was wherefore art thou, Zoltan, in the first few rounds of this season. Of course, Timmy Lettenham got very close to him in Le Mans. Ever since then, it hasn't really been anybody that has gotten anywhere near close, but is this the first chink in the armour of Zoltan Verkonyi's season, and is this going to be the weakest circuit so far? That is what the evidence would suggest, and at the moment, he's trying to go a long way in trying to prove us wrong, and fighting forward towards Alistair Ramsey for that P2 spot. There's only 2 seconds though between himself and Robert Pure, so that is not that big of a gap, and it could easily come down. We saw gaps last week along the lines of 11 seconds for Zoltan Verkonyi up the very top, but of course he is nowhere near on that level of dominance this week. Maybe it's the 50% ballast or the 50 kilograms of ballast that he has in that 27 Aston Martin, but he didn't seem affected by that 45 that he had last week. I guess it just depends from circuit to circuit, and at the moment Zoltan, who I think has taken a while to get used to that ballast, appears to be struggling under the lights.
Yeah, I feel like this circuit's a lot more power dependent, and being that little bit heavier means the car's a little bit sluggish out of those corners, and it's also a circuit with a lot of quick direction changes. So of course, with that extra ballast, a bit more understeer, he's going to be involved in a little bit of a later response from that front end to really make those direction changes. And I think that's where Verkonyi is struggling. As you can see him close up into 8, where you're not really changing directions, and into turn 1 as well, but as soon as you get into like the S sections or the exit of turns 1 and 2, he just starts to fall back that little bit. He had a big slide there through turn 12 on the exit, just got a little bit wide and on to the dust. But is this the opportunity he is finally going to have, and finally got to be able to break that armor that Ramsey has, finally break that wall down and then attack Robert Pure in front. He's all tucked up behind in that slipstream, but I think Ramsey, just being that little bit lighter, really is just helping him on the exit of those crucial corners of 14 and also 1 and 10 to really get that power down and just be able to stay in front as they head down that main straight. And yes, he is. Verkonyi can't do anything about it, no matter how well he drives. It just seems that Ramsey is just a little bit better off those corners, and that ballast really is working here in Sakir. I think this is the first real circuit where it could have been tested, to be honest, because all the other circuits, they weren't really about power. It was mainly just about having that minimum speed and rolling the car through, whereas a circuit like this in Sakir, you've got to have that power and quick direction change as well.
Yes, it's all about just getting that turn in. It's all about just practicing the racing again and again, and knowing where you can seize your opportunities on this racetrack. We're about halfway through this one now, and Robert Pure only has that gap of 3 seconds up at the very top, but that is it's not necessarily as sizable as we would be predicting, simply because of what we have gotten used to with Zoltan Verkonyi at the very top. Speaking of one of the Lexi, Robert Pure up at the top in one Lexus, another Lexus not having the greatest of time, Monoploy, who has just gone round and was the cause of those yellows. He's dropped a couple of positions, but he's not actually come out of the other side of it too badly. Brian Jalise trying to chase down Dan Birch. This is close battle on circuit between 3 cars. This is for P6 or P5 even. Dan Birch, Brian Jalise and Adam Kushawski 5th, 6th and 7th, and they are looking to potentially swap positions, or potentially as well catch up to Tom Osborne for that P4. I've been impressed with Osborne so far this race weekend, and I really think he's stepped up to the plate, and well, that BMW, it seems to be getting more and more meta by the week. I don't know whether it's track dependent, but every single time we go to a different circuit, that Aston Martin appears to start to struggle more and more, and so there's more yellow flags out, and that is for yet another incident. Franklin Stegging had an issue out of the final corner and has dropped behind Fordham 40 and Moffat down to P12. Dan Moffat, who's done a pretty good job, he's in P11 at the moment, and I think he can be pretty happy with that performance, as Jordan Biddle in the background of your screens gets past Zero Vissuri and moves up to P14. But this one may not be done. Vissuri looking at that outside line, but he's got nowhere near the level of traction and stayed in P15 for the time being.
Yeah, good drive so far from Daniel Moffat, who came from the back of the grid, now up to 11th. There's around about a second, less than a second behind Jordan 40, around about half a second separating him from the top 10 there, Daniel Moffat. So a very good drive from him indeed. It seems every so often in that second, well, every weekend so far in that second race here, Joseph, we find a driver that just starts at the back in that second race after seeing the tyre wear in the first one and just seems to claw their way up the field quite quickly, and they're able to do that nicely and then get into the top 10. Of course, that's where the gaps start to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it really does halt their progress, but they're able to break into that top 10 nicely as this battle now between Bert Schalise and also Kalszewski rages on in the forefront of all of that, though. As you can see, Dan Birch is only about 3 tenths clear of the Aston Martin of Brian Schalise, who's really been able to gain over these past few laps. So Schalise will be able to get that move done. Kalszewski was really wide, a big moment for him on the apex of turn 13. That really did cost him dearly in this battle. And as Schalise looking to the inside, oh, he thought about it, but it wasn't close enough for the move, and that's going to cost him dearly with this run now out of turn 14. But did it unsettle Dan Birch too much down this main straight now and on the corner exit? That Aston Martin, we know, very slippery in a straight line compared to the McLaren. So is he going to look to the inside? Is he going to take the dagger he sees before him and send a vicious lunge to that inside line? Yes, he is. Is Brian Schalise going to be able to get that move done, though? Birch on the outside will try his best to fight it, but a better traction, a better drive from the Aston Martin sees him up into the top 5, and it's Schalise who gets the move done. His next victim will be Tom Osborne, and it'll be very nice if he'll be able to get into that top 4, but that might be a little bit of a tough ask with about 6 racing laps to go. And for Robert Pure, he's now 3.7 seconds clear, and something's happened to Verconyi. I don't know if it's tyre drop-off, because he's dropped to 2nd behind Ramsey.
Yes, Zoltan Verconyi dropping a lot of time, and well, it must have just been a kick of oversteer maybe in turn number 4 or 5 or something along those lines, but yeah, Zoltan Verconyi currently holding that 3rd place and actually dropping a decent chunk of time to Alistair Ramsey on this lap. He was half a tenth slower in that first sector, and so it may well just be that Alistair Ramsey has the edge over the number 27 this evening. We'll see what the second sector split times are like to see whether it was an issue or a mistake on the circuit. We're expecting something in the 54s as they come across it. Robert Pure 54.9, Alistair Ramsey 54.9, Zoltan Verconyi 55.2, so he's lost 3 tenths in that second sector, so potentially that could be something that he does. That could be something that he has made a mistake somewhere. It's something that could have gone wrong for him. And yeah, he has not done very much in this race to threaten for that lead and threaten for that P2, as now Robert Pure looks like he has sealed this victory if there is no mistakes. But we saw in race 1 with Daniel Moffat making that mistake that the Lexus in particular in the lead is only one small error away from dropping off.
It certainly is one small error, and that can be the end of your race winning hopes. We saw that from Moffat quite crucially in that first race, but that really was when the pressure's on. There is no pressure on Robert Pure. He can just focus on just bringing this one home, keep hitting his marks, keep just driving the way he is, and he will win this race for his first victory of the season and the first round and first evening where we see Verconyi not winning a single race. Of course, has won every race before the first race of this evening, and now be looking at potentially going a meeting with no race victory to his name. And if the tyre drop-off is as big as we maybe think it is coming near the end, potentially without a podium either, Tom Osborne will be looking to try and capitalise on that. But Verconyi, over the course of this lap, has looked a lot more better. Looks a lot better, a lot more precise in that car. And this lap, it does seem that it just has managed itself out nicely. I think it was just a mistake in that previous lap which cost him dearly against Alistair Ramsey. Maybe a move that didn't go too well, or potentially just getting a little bit too wide and having a big moment on the exit of one of these corners. But now for Zoltan Varkonyi, is he going to try and apply that pressure once again? Mark Cooley getting out the way nicely for Robert Pure in front of these two that are battling for second and third. And now we're going to see if Varkonyi can once again try and re-put that pressure on Ramsey. But again, that, as we know, Ramsey so good at soaking it up. He really just revels in it. And he just produces outstanding drives, especially for second place. We've seen it so many times in the past. At Interlagos, at Portimao as well, when he's fighting for that second place, he does not want to let it go. He has it in a death hug. And we're going to see if Varkonyi can do anything about it.
It doesn't appear that he has been able to at this point in time, and he stays in behind Ramsey, just trying to apply that pressure. As he's made Timmy Lettinen crack earlier this season, he has not made Alistair Ramsey crack at any point this evening, as the battles are continuing on up and down the field. Brian Jalise defending from Dan Birch and Adam Koszałski for that P5, and tonight for 12th, Hendrik de Vries closing in on Matt Fordham and trying to make this move stick. Of course, 12th would be the wooden spoon in this battle. 11th would be for the leader of this one, and Fordham, who's dropped off about a second off of Jordan 40 in this position at the moment. And the battle for 12th tonight really is on, and Hendrik de Vries trying to close in as much as he possibly can and get that move done. He looked so much quicker over the last lap. He's looked so much quicker over the last few laps, in fact, and across this entire evening. He was almost a whole second off of Matt Fordham. He's about a second quicker a lap than Matt Fordham at the moment, and so it should be a pretty routine move for him to go for the move. And he did look to that inside line, but of course a fool thinks himself to be wise, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool, and that would have been a foolish move if he tried to go for it there in towards turn number 12. Now heading through the next few corners, he may well try to make the move, or a big slide into turn number 15. Means that he's not going to be able to make that move stick, but somebody who is further up, Zoltan Varkonyi, trying to go on that move on the outside line into the first corner. Is he going to be able to make this one stick? Ramsey is going to be later on the brakes, and so he's going to force Zoltan Varkonyi to go a long way around the outside. And actually, Varkonyi tries to go for a switchback, brakes early, tries to get the turn, and doesn't work, as that turn number 3 has sort of cost him. And Zoltan Varkonyi lives to fight another day in behind.
He certainly does, and Ramsey really putting in some good defensive displays there, forced Varkonyi to the outside, and of course at that point, except from doing the switchback, you got no real opportunity at getting through unless you are a lot quicker and a lot braver on the brakes than the car in front of you. But Ramsey, he is a very experienced driver. He knows how to defend for his position, and he will fight you tooth and nail for it. He will not relinquish without a fight, and he will fight you all the way to the death. So for Varkonyi, he's got to rethink of another battle plan and maybe seeing a bunch of Varkonyi in the mirrors. A Hungarian hero looking to try and at least claim second place. But at the moment, Ramsey holds a firm grip on it.
Unfortunately for the majority, that my computer freaked out, so there was no audio at all. But it's a point that we're echoing, Ramsey and Varkonyi, who are just so close together on this circuit, and they have been all race long, but we said that about the race 1 battle for that leader. Eventually that it turned out to be the lead between Osborne and Pure as they battle for this P2, but I don't think they're going to be a rinse and repeat of that first round. Pure did so well to soak up pressure in that first race and in the early portion of this race as well, and it looks like he's built up enough of a gap to hold on to that one and just sit there for the time being. And I think he'll be pretty happy with the way that he's performed this evening, and yeah, he's absolutely fine where he is right now. And now trying to close in, Zoltan Vakonyi is, well, he got a little bit tetchy on the curb, so he wasn't able to make the inroads he would have liked. Looking slightly further back as Daniel Moffat's recovery drive from not setting a qualifying lap is coming back to him, and he is in P9 at the moment. 5.5 seconds between P8 Craig Starkey and as that's a big slide for Jordan. 40 I think that is in behind them, but yeah, Starkey 5.5 behind Dan Birch ahead, and Daniel Moffat trying to close this gap in and trying to potentially make the move as early as turn number 12. He will take that slipstream, he will try and make Starkey go to the inside. Aggressive defensive move from Craig Starkey, which means that he holds on to P8. Daniel Moffat won't particularly be happy with that one, I don't think, because, well, Craig Starkey did seem to swerve quite far across the circuit to defend, but it all's well that ends well, and neither of them picked up damage, so that was absolutely fine. Craig Starkey, P8, holds on to it. Daniel Moffat has to live to fight another day.
He certainly does, and he's all over the back of him now, heading into the final corner. And is he going to get this move done now into turn 14? And again, no, Starkey just able to hold position and hold that line. We're on the penultimate lap of this race. And are we going to see Robert Pure bring this one home? But the question is, who is going to get P2 and who is going to get P8 here? Here is Daniel Moffat down the main straight. It seems that Lexus just having a bit more straight line speed than that Porsche. So are we going to see Moffat now late on the brakes into turn 1, finally get this move done? Of course, this is where he lost out crucially on that race victory in race 1. And here around in race 2, he picks off another position. Up into 8th place goes Daniel Moffat. A brilliant drive from the back of the grid. And I think that's all as far as he can get. That's all he wrote in this race, unless Craig Starkey can fight him back, which he will not be able to do. Vakonyi's dropped that back a little bit compared to Ramsey. That got now around about half a second between the pair, and it's going to be that battle shaping up over the course of that final lap. Of course, we saw the battle for the lead on that final lap on race 1. Now in race 2, it's the battle for second, with the man who was fighting in that battle for the lead on race 1 absolutely dominating and just zooming away at the front of the field.
Yeah, it's rinse and repeat. Battle for P2 is the headline taker from this one, and Zoltan Vakonyi continuing to try and battle as we will head on next to the final lap of this race, and Robert Pure 6 seconds up the field, and well, Alistair Ramsey and Zoltan Vakonyi pretty comfortable in those next couple of positions. Adam Koszałski trying to make Brian Jalice's life hell for that P5 and trying to make him as uncomfortable as possible as we head towards the final couple of corners on this racetrack for the penultimate time. Koszałski really sitting in behind. He may well try to go for the move in the final corner, or he may well try and wait for that first corner, but Koszałski pulling to that inside, pulling back out of it, and yeah, he's comfortable there at the moment, sitting right in behind, but he may well go for that move down the main straight as well. And well, no, I think he's pretty, I think in the end he is comfortable in behind, and Zoltan Vakonyi gets ever closer to Alistair Ramsey.
He certainly does. We start this final lap, and Vakonyi nearly went for the move into turn 1. As we now head up the hill into turn 4, could this be where Vakonyi finally gets it done on the final lap? No, he just sits behind once again. He's focusing potentially for turn 8 maybe here. That's a big overtaking opportunity, and potentially Vakonyi's last. A little snap of oversteer on the exit of 4 as we head now through 5, 6, now into 7. Is he close enough for that lunge? He's going to try everything he can. Is he going to look to the inside line? No, once again. But this time, trying to get that run out of the corner, but goes deep, and it's just not enough for Vakonyi. So surely, Alistair Ramsey is going to be able to hold on to this second place unless he makes a big mistake. For Konyi, late on the brakes, closes up dearly as much as he possibly can. Desperation really kicking in for that Aston Martin driver, the Hungarian, trying to make it a second place to recover, at least to make it a decent evening for him. But just not enough, as we can see further up. The man we need to look out for, who has really gelled with this car ever so quickly. It's his first outing in this Lexus. It's a second place in the first race. He's had 2 second places so far this season. And it's going to be a weekend where we do not see the Hungarian of Vakonyi take the race victory. But for Robert Pure, the bridesmaid will now become the bride. At last, Robert Pure, the Austrian. That swap could not have worked more sweeter. This is how you say thank you to a new manufacturer taking you on. Is Robert Pure, who wins here the second race in Sakir. Who gets second place? It's Alistair Ramsey who holds on to another podium position. Brilliant drive from the Briton, from Vakonyi, from Osborne, from Jalise, from Kozlowski, Birch, Moffat with a brilliant drive up into 8th, 40 9th, and the question is, who will 40 finish 9th? Will he be able to stay in front of De Vries? I think he will as he comes to the line. It'll be 40 from De Vries to round out your top 10, then Matt Fordham, but a brilliant drive from the Austrian, who takes his first race win of the season.
He does, and he stakes his claim to be right up there at the very top. A Midsummer Night's Dream from Robert Pure, who takes the victory in this race after performing incredibly well in the first one as well, and I think he is very, very deserving of that race in general. Franklin Steggink in the end getting just past Eero Vashuri, as there was 2 photo finishes, I think one between Craig Starkey and Gary Barham and another one between Franklin Steggink and Eero Vashuri, as Sebastian Borgerson across the line, Paul Garnham to across the line, and the final finisher will be Rich Green in P19. So we had only 2 DNFs that time out, Morna Ploy and Jorge Prieto for P22 and P23. And, well, 23 drivers took to the track for race 2, 25 for race 1. And, well, it's fair to say that Sakir threw up a number of challenges.
Yes, it certainly did. It was an absolutely amazing evening of action. And, yeah, brilliantly done from both Pure and Osborne, who finally break that streak of Vakonyi. We go around without a race victory. To think we went 3 rounds where he won every single race. We then head to the 4th round with that success ballast. He loses it all. Absolute perfection for both Osborne and Pure. Osborne really had to work for it, and Pure, as soon as he got that pole position, he never looked back. And it really was a fairy tale story, and he really became just a brilliant driver. And that Lexus has really suited Pure to a T, especially around here in Sakir. We're going to have to see for the remainder of the season if he's able to keep this up. But for Joseph, for a first outing in Lexus, it couldn't have gone any better. I think you muted your mic.
We don't talk about it. I think it really was. It was a very good weekend for him, and he's going to stake his claim now to become part of potentially the championship battle, and well, potentially a lot more than that as well. Alistair Ramsey could be staking his claim in the battle up the top, as well as this one really does look like it's going to be exciting and much closer than any other. Don't forget as well, Zoltan Vakonyi is, well, he's not going to have that much ballast next week, and so he will be pretty comfortable heading on to the next round, or a little bit more comfortable than he would have been this evening. We'll see whether we are going to be able to get the opportunity to speak to him. Of course, every time we've spoken to him, it's been when he's won, and he's pretty happy about it. Today, I think we're going to get a mixed reception from Zoltan Vakonyi if we do at least get the opportunity to speak to him. Of course, we'd like to speak to Robert Pure as well, but yeah, Zoltan Vakonyi is he wasn't quite at the races today, and it certainly showed. Race 1 was poor by his standards. Race 2 was a little bit better, but P3, nah, that's not good enough.
No, not at all for Vakonyi standards. And I mean, that first race, the bubble finally burst. We found out he was human, and he can make mistakes, and that's what really happened in that first race, was that it just all went wrong. And unfortunately for him, the luck wasn't on his side in that one, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And then you think maybe into race 2, he can get a better result, but it could be at least at best a top 5, getting into that 5th place. But he's able to qualify well in 3rd, and he stayed there for the remainder of the race, the top 4 finishing as they started. And really there for Vakonyi, it was just all about trying to get past Ramsey. He had a go, and it just didn't work, and then he just never really got close enough since then. Just that car was too heavy, and he wasn't really able to fight as much with it as he possibly could, and he was, of course, really sluggish out of some of these corners, and that really showed here at Sakir, and I don't think it's one of his strongest circuits as well. So we're going to have to see a new and revitalised Vakonyi next time out at Imola, but that's another power-dependent circuit, so even if he has a little bit less weight ballast here, Joseph, and he has some of it on there, it's still going to be quite a challenge, because Imola, a lot of hills, a lot of slow speed corners, and very much all about getting the power up the hills and trying to be as quick out of the corners as possible. It could still be another tricky race for that one. Could potentially be a tricky race for everybody with ballast.
Well, I mean, it's certainly going to be a confidence knock tonight. He would have been hyped after the first round, hyped after the second, hyped after the third as well. But, I mean, he's dominated the first 3 rounds of this season, so it was always going to be a matter of time whether he was going to, or when he was going to be knocked off his perch. It has been tonight under the lights in Bahrain, and, well, as I say, a Midsummer Night's Dream for Robert Pure, and he will be absolutely delighted with that one. That is all she wrote from us here at the Global Racing Drivers Club, here for the LMGT3 Challenge, powered by Coach Dave, Delta Driveline Media, and Driven Minds. Until next time, it is goodbye.